Charlotte Soccer Show. World Cup banter is back, and it is day 11. Teams are getting knocked out. Teams are moving on. We had a wild day. Yesterday was just amazing drama for the U.S.-Iran situation, everything going on with that. Today was just like drama for neutrals. Today was Americans who love soccer living the dream of a crazy advancement, elimination scenarios. It's your man, Danny Brams, back in effect for the 11th day of the tournament. Matt Geslin out there on the West Coast, living the best life. Matt, how you doing tonight?
Danny Brams, I'm doing well. It was, as you said, a nice night for the neutrals. Of course, I still had some investment in the games this afternoon.
Oh, I forgot you use the we word when it comes to France.
Correct. Yeah, well, you've told me which one I have to pick, so we'll just, we'll see. There was an instance where we could have actually played each other, which would have been interesting, but I digress. Yes, feeling much better now after Argentina takes care of business, separates France and Argentina on the bracket. But as you pointed out, an absolutely wild day in day 11 of the World Cup. Didn't think that we were going to be talking about yellow cards potentially moving on.
Right. At one point we were like 2 yellow cards away from having to draw names out of a hat to see who
exactly.
Goes
and in this World Cup, you know what? It wouldn't have surprised me with everything that's been going on and the craziness here. But day 11, and
they did use yellow cards to decide advancement at the last World Cup, I believe, in Russia. I think Senegal did not go through, right? Correct. Because they had too many yellows. So Mexico was looking to be in that situation. Instead, when it came down to it, the tiebreakers didn't go quite so deep because Mexico blew it and gave up a late goal, and that's the way it goes. But so Australia, Denmark, the Aussies move on. Tunisia, France. Tunisia wins but doesn't quite get enough to advance. France plays a B-side and moves on. Saudi Arabia, Mexico. El Tri failing to advance to the knockout rounds for the first time after a streak of 7 World Cups in a row, I think, where they did. And then Poland, Argentina, Messi. I would call this the Messi passing the baton game. I don't know what you think. Like with him missing the PK and then a wombo combo goal from their next generation, Enzo Fernandez and Julian Alvarez. I just think Argentina, as much as they're trying to win this last cup for Messi, today was an indicator of like where they're going as a football nation.
Absolutely. And I tweeted out earlier, I think, to a couple of folks, just because they've been posting it or talking about it over various channels. I think the difference that you're seeing now in this Argentina team versus the past is that Messi doesn't have to be the weight and the carrier of this team. Of course,
it would be nice if he would make his penalty kicks.
It would be nice,
and it people would make who have him captain in our fantasy pool would be absolutely amazing. That would be real nice.
On a day that was very limited in points, but it's a new generation, as you said. Julian Alvarez, a guy that you've always been kind of talking about.
Spider-Man.
Very, very high on him. Big day for the
Enzo Fernandez. Enzo Fernandez is like, he is having such a year after he dominated at River Plate, helped River Plate win all kinds of silverware and titles. Then he makes the move over to Benfica. He's got Benfica flying high in the Champions League. And now here he is scoring and assisting goals for Argentina. What a year for this kid.
We also can't forget that's a great day for Scottish Argentinians as McAllister scored that first goal there for them.
Alexis McAllister.
Again, it's one of those things. Messi doesn't have to carry the load. He wasn't even really involved in both of the goals, not involved in the assists or getting the goal itself. So this Argentina team is definitely a different position going forward. And again, regain that one of those favorite statuses after advancing out of the group, barring a really surprise loss to open the tournament.
Well, we mentioned Mexico ending their streak on this day of wild action. We're going to start a new streak here on this show, on World Cup Banter, Charlotte Soccer Show supplement. We are going to have 2 days in a row with a special guest. I want to welcome in right now our man, Level Up Luke, tremendous friend of the show on Charlotte Soccer Show. We call him the Charlotte Meme King. This guy's always out there in the streets busting funny memes and equating working Thanos into Charlotte FC storylines in whatever way possible. And Luke, welcome tonight. You're looking I like the blue room. You said a very nice blue. Argentina fans in the audience are going to love this. And welcome.
That's right. It's all about that black and blue. I was wearing my Charlotte FC shirt today. I saw Swiderski got the nod.
I'm pointing to the
there we go. Let's go. This is like my man cave halfway finished, but I got the LEDs up. in the pre-production, I tried to put up with the little ring light and made me look like a glowing angel. So backed off of that. We're just going with the blue discotheque theme here.
Well, you are an angel on the Charlotte FC scene, Luke. We've hung out a few times pre-game at the quarter, had a good time. I'm imagining we're going to be doing that even more in the next coming season. You even dragged me down for a night of happy hour drinks in South Carolina. I crossed the border down into Fort Million, and I had a great night. So thank you for welcoming me to your neighborhood a few weeks back, and happy to have you on the show.
Absolutely, man. Dia de los Muertos. It was a lot of fun.
Yeah, we did have a lot of fun.
Yeah, I was going to say, just as far as Argentina goes, though, I think passing the torch might be a little reactive. I think that's something that in retrospect, in hindsight, maybe we could say that. But I think Messi still has a lot of gas. I think he can still absolutely show up and take over a match. I think what we saw, though, is that they are not Portugal. Messi is Messi, but he's got a whole team behind him. And they can do damage. So a lot of people picked Argentina to win this. And I'll tell you, I mean, the way they handled Poland, a team that, has looked fairly good the last few years, I wouldn't want to play Argentina. So,
yeah. And I think you nailed it right on the head, right? I think we saw the exact opposite example of what you're talking about on the other side of the field. Robert Lewandowski, one of the best goal scorers in the world, right? If not arguably the goal scorer to have on your team, single-handedly up there by himself, no support. You mentioned Ronaldo, similar type of instance where, of course, he has a little bit more talent than Lewandowski does, but all credit and no disrespect to Karol Swiderski, but he's no Pablo Di Maria or Julian Alvarez. So
you mean Angel Di Maria?
Yeah, exactly. So totally different type of environment on that side.
So let's get to that, because we are the Charlotte Soccer Show, and we finally got what we had been looking for this entire World Cup. The man himself, Karol Swiderski, King Karol, our talisman, our DP, our goal scorer, our captain by the end of the year, our throne destroyer, and we're so happy we finally get a chance to see Karol play in the World Cup, and we didn't get to see much, did we? What did you think, Luke? Did you get to see Karol at all play?
I got to see part of the first half. I did miss right before halftime. It looks like he was subbed off at halftime, and I kind of missed that. Yeah. Could you just walk me through what happened?
And we don't know. He could have had a knock. He was knocked down kind of hard, but he did get up and walk off. So my thought was that he was... and they did a double sub. So I thought it was more tactical. It was more like, all right, this isn't working for us, what we're trying to do. Let's bring in, at halftime, they brought in Kaminsky and Skoras for Swiderski and Frankowski. They basically said, all right, MLS, we've had enough of MLS here, Swiderski in there. And they brought in a couple other guys to just try a different look, is what I felt. That doesn't mean Swiderski wasn't hurt, but I think he might have been subbed, whether he's hurt or not. He did get up and walk off under his own power. So I was talking to some friends today, like on just during the game, and being like, "Do you think he's hurt? Do you think he's Karol's okay?" And we don't really know. Hopefully, we would hear some news on that if something had happened. But you see on SofaScore, 6.9 rating. He did get down near the corner flag to try to work on the set piece on one play. His red spots on the heat map are all in the defensive third, so that's not really that great. He just wasn't quite like the dynamic force, and not really his fault. Poland couldn't do anything. They were under the crush of Argentina the entire game. What do you think, Matt, of Poland's putting our king out there?
Yeah, I think, Luke, to your point, early he was involved. Danny Brams mentioned the free kick and kind of had some opportunity in the front, forward third early on. And then I think as the game progressed and they were really just kind of sitting back and chasing.
I mean, look at the momentum meter. Look at that momentum meter. Yeah, exactly. It's just pure blue.
I think
that's as bad as I've seen this entire tournament.
It was pretty
like nothing from Poland.
So, I mean, Danny, if you can pull back up that heat map for Swiderski. First of all, hey, shout out to you guys, because I had never heard of or used SofaScore before you guys were talking about it on the Charlotte Soccer Show podcast. Okay. So I picked up the mobile app and I was using that in games at Charlotte FC. And now, since I started watching these YouTube recaps, I've learned that there's also a desktop version. that has a lot more info. So I'm just learning all kinds of things from you guys. This heat map, to me, if your forward, if your attacking player is spending most of his time in the defensive third and the defensive mid, probably not a good sign, just in terms of how the game is going for you.
Yeah.
And he was doing that sort of new role that he took on at the end of the year for Charlotte, where he's like behind the main striker and sort of slotted. He like runs side to side, and like he can make a play from central. He can make a play from wide. And you see him in the corner. He comes back. I like the work. It's great that he's working his way back to come get stuff, but like there's just nothing that any real attacker could do. Let's look at Lewandowski's heat map. I mean, he played the entire match.
Yeah, and while you pull it up, I think one thing to point out too was about Karol and why they probably brought him off at half. I think to your guys' point, they weren't doing much. They were defending a lot, chasing the ball. They were talking about how humid and sticky and kind of difficult that environment was in the arena itself. So 45-minute half sub and get some fresh legs in there to continue doing what you're doing. You knew that Poland wasn't going to be expansive in the second half. So look at
Lewandowski, 0 touches in the box. He's pure green. There's no yellow or certainly no orange or red in that box on his heat map. So I mean, it was a tough sledding for Poland all the way.
And you got to say credit to Argentina. They controlled the match for everything that I saw. They seemed to just control it. Now, I mean, Poland is advancing. They do have another game to play, at least one more game.
Yep. They backed their way in, as you see the standings. They were ready to advance on yellow cards, but then that Saudi Arabia goal late, which had an impact in the pool, by the way, because so many people owned Al Dazri.
Yeah.
That basically made the tiebreakers, moved them up a level to where Poland was much better. They win by goal differential 0 to -1. And Mexico's out. And I got to say, I have friends that cheer for Mexico. I have former family members that cheer for Mexico, but I really don't. And I have no problem with Mexico as a country, but I really don't like El Tri. And I was very happy to see El Tri go out. I don't care. I'm not apologizing. I think they're a bad team. They're not fun to cheer for. And there was a big debate back in the when Greg Berhalter was hired for the U.S. was like, should we get Tata? There were people that wanted Tata Martino, including me. I probably wanted Tata more than Berhalter, but the U.S. is moving on. Both teams hired coaches around the same team. The U.S. is moving on. Mexico's out.
So let me ask you a question. Do you think Tata's going to be on the plane going back?
We talked about this briefly last time Mexico was out, and I don't think so. I think I told Danny Brams the other day, and I think you saw some of that reflected on the field today as far as just having a little bit more freedom and openness and a little bit too little too late for Mexico. Obviously, 2 really good goals. But Luke, to your point, I think they've already fired him. I think they fired him before the Saudi match. I think that it was more of just a, hey, if you get out of the group, that's great. This is the end of the tournament. Whenever this tournament ends.
I mean, I think he was fired at the end of this tournament, even if they went to the semifinals.
Exactly. This tournament was the end for him, and so they were out. So
and not to get ahead of ourselves, we may find ourselves in the same situation. Sure. Who knows?
There's
a school of thought that managers should not continue after the World Cup. You should have each cycle be its own, living, breathing thing. Yeah, who knows? But I feel bad for him because, I mean, what a fantastic inaugural season for Atlanta. I mean, the Kings of the South.
Right.
And it's so weird,
Everything they achieved is just.
Yeah, now that we have a team, Atlanta's our rival. But I still have a jersey from their inaugural season.
I still have a T-shirt. Yeah.
Oh, man, it's weird.
I went down to Mercedes-Benz Stadium and watched, Almiron and Joseph play together back in the championship year, and it had so much fun.
It'll be interesting though to see, because I think, and obviously not taking away from anything that we've done as a country to get to where we are now as far as football is concerned, but it will be interesting to see where Mexico goes. I think obviously us being such rivals and paying such close attention to how that program progresses, right? I think the beautiful thing about CONCACAF is when US and Mexico are strong. I think you're seeing Canada, a new team up and coming that'll be there for a while, but having the 3 of those teams, really representing CONCACAF, I think CONCACAF has had a really, really abysmal performance here at this World Cup, which is unfortunate to see. And
really
obviously Costa Rica gets a chance to maybe make it 50-50 on whether or not, percentage of teams that get out of the group from CONCACAF. But, Mexico being poor in CONCACAF is really difficult for the federation as a whole, and also for our presence in the region for sure. So, you want to see Mexico do better than that.
It pisses me off because I like to get off my anti-Italy jokes. I like to get off like, oh, well, Italy couldn't make it. So, but when Costa Rica and Canada look so poor, then that gives firepower right back the other way for the Europhiles to come back and say, maybe we should take a spot away from CONCACAF and give it back to Europe so Italy can be in this tournament, because they'd probably put in a better performance than this.
And myself, I pull for the Scotland team, and they were fairly close to making it as well. Me being a Celtic fan, prior to Charlotte FC, Celtic was my number one team. So, I mean, I would love to have seen them, make it without having to go through that playoff process with the Ukraine game and everything that entailed. But you know what? It is what it is. I think next cycle with the expanded field, it's going to lead to a lot of new math excitement, if that's a thing, if I can say that. Today, this is the beauty of the World Cup. We had these games going on simultaneously, and we're paying attention to what are the scenarios? What is the math? How can we make what's the tiebreaker? What's the tiebreaker's tiebreaker? All right, are we going to have to flip a coin to see who goes to the next stage?
It almost got there. It did almost get there.
That's the beauty of the World Cup. You love to see it.
And to your point, and I would love your thoughts on this, Danny Brams and I have talked about it over a long stretch, and I'm sure that this will continue. Also, your beverage looks blue, which is great as well. But what are your thoughts on an expanded 48-team World Cup? Obviously, that's what we'll see in 2026 as we host it. But just your thoughts on an expanded field, and if it dilutes some of the product that we'll see.
You know what? You have the same conversation no matter what sport you're talking about, no matter what league or what system. You always have this conversation: does expanding the playoffs dilute the product? Because at the end of the day, we're all paying attention to the product, not necessarily on the field, but it's the broadcast package. That's what makes money from the sponsors. My take on this has always been, within reason, the more games, the better, because the more content you have, the better the product becomes.
Even bad games, though?
You know what? I say college football expanded to 12. And I've been saying that for 10, 15 years, because you have enough teams, 120 plus teams, you can afford a 12-team playoff. The top 10% get in. How many countries do we have in FIFA? How many national programs? Over 200, right? We can afford to have 48 teams in the playoffs. March Madness, they've expanded that field slowly but surely. I think we're over 400 college basketball programs in D1. You can afford to have, 68 teams. You can afford to have 120 teams. It's still the elite. It's still the top teams. And you end up getting the upsets. You end up getting the David versus Goliath, and crazy things happen. Any given, with the World Cup, any given day of the week, you can have a team like Japan beat Germany and then turn around and lose to Costa Rica.
Or Saudi Arabia beat Argentina and then finish last in the group.
Beautiful. And then knock Mexico out. Mexico has made it for the last 7 World Cups. You have these storylines. They will develop naturally and organically. But what you can control is the amount of product. And also, I can tell you personally, as a Charlotte FC fan, I didn't watch the MLS All-Star game because I didn't have a dog in the race. We didn't have representation, so I didn't care. And once we were knocked out of that playoff race, I mean, I paid attention to the MLS playoffs and I watched the MLS Cup and game for the ages. But that's how playoffs work. You start to pay attention the later it goes. If your team is involved throughout the contest, you're paying attention a lot more. I think viewership goes up. I think media rights go up worldwide. I think it's a win for everybody, especially for the consumer, because you get to see more quality content.
It's a great take, and I certainly know this group, Danny Brams, more opportunity to bet is
right. Yeah, exactly. I'm all about the action, baby.
Our friends in the desert.
Exactly, our friends in the desert, as they say. So
we were commiserating about that the other day.
Well, it might to bust a segue on you guys. It might adding more teams might create more work for trying to run the pool. So let's get to our pool report. Since we're 20 minutes into this thing, we haven't even brought it up yet. And that's kind of one of the main reasons we're here. Level Up, Luke. What do you think about the pool? How has your participation been? It looks like based on today's scoring, you have moved up 4 spots to 14th. You're
Right
still
behind
alive.
me.
You're
right
you're
behind
only
me.
75
we're
points out
neck
of
and
first.
neck there.
We are. I didn't even notice that.
I'm 1776 minus the first digit, so
Right.
I'll take it.
Go America.
And you're at 779. Yeah, no, I absolutely love this pool. I love all the data and the tabs. I mean,
it's all about tabs.
I am not an attention to detail or like math oriented person by any means, but I've worked in fields that are kind of math adjacent for a long time. So I love a good spreadsheet. And this is just this is so much fun. I have to keep going back and looking at who my player is for each team. And I think once we get to the knockout round, I'll know my players better. But it's like, who's my player for Tunisia? Who's my player for Saudi Arabia? I have no idea.
Yeah.
But,
I like the way it gets you invested in every single game. I think that's the strength of the format for sure.
Sure. And I like how you have it broken down on the tabs of like, how many people chose each player. Because you see a little bit of like Vox Populi, a little bit of the people all kind of going in one direction.
Right. 36 Mbappe's,
Yeah. I mean, and a lot of times those are the highest scoring players.
Yeah.
I got to say, making Mbappe my captain, I do not regret that decision yet. So, fingers crossed.
He sat out today and still came in. I mean, he didn't start, but he still came in and got 8 points, just from coming out and shooting a bunch. So.
Sure. And Messi didn't score. So anyone who took him as a captain, I mean, I'm sure he has points, but
these guys right here.
Guilty. Yeah. Let's see. What Messi today only had, I think, 20 points, which is pretty good with no goal.
He's still been out.
That's phenomenal with no goals. Yeah, absolutely. All right, so he's catching up with Mbappe.
He should have had 32-ish. Yeah. So he's 8 points behind Mbappe overall, I think. So it's gonna be interesting.
That's why I dropped in my ranking, apparently.
But how about our guy Al Dazri for Saudi Arabia? The most picked. He came through. He had the 11-point game where he scored a goal, which is worth 12, and still only had 11. That was kind of funny. But then he had 12 without any goal. The next game he had more than 12, and then today he just crushed and got the late goal. So
I was
Christian Eriksen, big disappointment. Would you say only 40 points?
Yeah, but I mean, so when I say like Vox Populi, look at the other players though. Look at the total points. So you have 23 people picking him, and he's the highest scoring player on the team. So really, that's what you're looking for, is you want to pick the highest scoring player.
Yes.
You're not necessarily looking at them relative to other teams. So you have to have a player from Denmark. So might as well pick the highest scoring one.
Yeah, and another little point to that too, Danny Brams, I think something that we've looked over a little bit, right, is kind of making sure that you take players that are going to be there for the long term, right?
Yep, sure.
Your key players. Not necessarily because you have to pick one from every team, but Christian Eriksen, a huge player for Denmark, a major disappointment for this tournament to have them knocked out today. Something that none of us really expected. A lot of people had them going at least almost to the quarterfinals, if not further. Certainly getting out of the group. So, surprises like that. Robert Lewandowski obviously continues, but you want to.
Yeah, Poland's a nice example of the dynamic Luke is talking about.
Exactly.
2 people picked Szczęsny and 29 picked Louis. And Szczęsny hasn't beat by 14 points,
exactly.
13 points. So that's a huge leverage play. And
can we talk about his performance today, though?
Oh, it was amazing.
Oh my God,
it was amazing.
I mean, I remember this dude. It must have been the Euros. He's had some standout performances, but
he's got Arsenal DNA. That's why.
God, man, that save on Messi's penalty. Oh.
Pretty nice.
And
well, I mean, he's the one who caused the penalty, so he might as well have saved it. That's the way I see that one. So.
Ball don't lie. Hey, first of all, it was not a penalty. Second of all, ball don't lie.
Technically, it's a penalty, but I understand where you're coming from.
Well,
secondly,
I mean, we're learning a lot about technically.
It is a foul. Reviews. So it's a foul through the field, right? So if a defender goes through you after you've passed the ball, that's still a foul. And in this case, it just happens to be in the box. Yes, it was a weird call. A lot of people will probably say, "Oh, it's Messi. That's why they gave it to him." Blah blah blah. In the end, ball don't lie. Szczęsny made the save. But real quick, obviously 9 saves. Danny Brams, you saw there. All those saves came in the first half. All those came in the first half. All 9 saves. So Tim Howard, your 15 saves is still
your record is safe.
You'll be fine. So,
well, to bring it back to the pool. We got a new leader. This is big news, actually. We almost buried the lead. We have a new leader. Sebi Charita has jumped ahead of Michael Volak with a huge day, beat him by nearly 50 points on the day to move from 3rd to 1st. AJ Giordano with a nice day to move up. Shapansky moved up. Kevin Knapp took a little bit of a tumble. He took a fall today. A couple of his picks on these teams are not the best, but hey, it's okay.
So
Josh Lorzl moving up. Mike Slipsky, how about the karma? Level Up Luke, you should expect a nice boost tomorrow. Mike Slipsky got a 9-point jump in his score on the leaderboard after coming up on the show yesterday. So there's a karma boost.
Hey, there we go.
And there's
Danny
Luke.
Brams holding down the top 10
staying in the top 10. I don't know if I'm going to threaten to win here, but I'm staying in the top 10. Let's check the daily leader real quick because we're about to wrap this thing up. But Andrew Lane, and I believe, is he another first-time winner? Another first-time winner. That's great. So 11 days into this thing, we've had different daily pool winners every day. I do need to own up to one thing. Andrew, your money's on the way. And we joked about this earlier in the cup, Geslin, you and I. And I said, man, it's going to suck if I do the daily prize, if I have to correct a mistake and that changes the daily prize winner. Well, it did happen. So I cursed myself by speaking into existence. But day 8, we had thought that our great friend of the show, Rachel Hayes, was the daily winner with her 83 points. But I had made a mistake. I miscalculated Michael Supp's score on his Purvis Estupiñán and his Jamal Musiala scores. I forgot to update the most recent games. When I did that, he emerged as the day 8 winner. So I took the hit on this one. I paid Michael a daily prize. Rachel, you keep your prize. This one's on me. And I probably owe you money from drinks and pizza the other day.
Yep,
anyway.
we all owe the Hayes something at this point.
Yeah, exactly. So I'm just gonna that one's on me, my fault. And tell everybody that I run a good, clean pool, and I own up to my own mistakes, I guess.
We won't call out that this is 2 times that Danny Brams has messed with the Hazes, but that's
that is true. That is true. Also, well, we need to have both John and Rachel on.
We do
because they that's one of our probably favorite subplots of the whole pool, right? The gap has closed. It is now a 5-point gap or 5.5-point gap between Rachel and John's entries. Scott Worley is the meat in the Hayes sandwich there. And I don't know, John could move up. It depends what Rachel with the KDB captain has a very unique entry. So we'll see. John has the Mbappe captain. So.
We talked about this the other day. Danny Brams, the Worley brothers, they're starting to separate a little bit as well. They were closer.
Yeah, Worley, although Chris Worley is one of our biggest followers of the day. Dropped 8 spots to 27th. He's at 715. Still 40 ahead of his brother.
But you love to see the houses divided, and they're getting closer. Some of them are getting further away. So we'll definitely have a little back and forth with, especially the Hazes. As you mentioned, Danny Brams would love to have both of them on here. Maybe if it's
I want to have them come on. I want to have them come on and have like a little battle with each other.
Yeah, absolutely. So, I think but congrats to Sebi, as you mentioned, our new leader going into day 12.
See if he can stay there.
Volak
had a good run. Volak had a nice 3-day run. Good for him.
Yep.
I don't know. Have you ever met Michael Volak, Luke?
I have not.
He's a Charlotte FC guy. He's hung out with us at.
I've probably ran into him at the bar.
Right, you probably have met him
with a pregame, but
he's a Charlotte FC legend. Well, thank you so much for coming in, Luke. Give us your final thoughts here on the pool, on the cup, on where the U.S. men's national team versus Netherlands. What's something you want to say that you haven't had a chance to say yet?
All right, so I should probably wrap up with the U.S. national team, but thoughts so far. I'm loving the tournament. My goal was to watch every World Cup game. I had watched every game up until Thanksgiving, and that's where I kind of fell off the wagon. And now I'm pretty much man. I woke up that morning, I looked at my alarm clock, and I was like, nah.
Not today.
Nah. I lost my willpower. I'm trying to catch the big matches. I'm following all the hype, listen to a lot of podcasts. There's a fantastic, for the Ted Lasso fans out there, there's a fantastic podcast right now with Brandon Hunt, who plays Coach Beard, and NBC Sports Premier League correspondent. They co-host this podcast together where they're just ranting and raving about all the World Cup stuff. Absolutely love it. As far as what's coming up, I am actually really excited to see I believe Spain and Japan are playing tomorrow.
Yep.
I always have a soft spot in my heart for the Japanese national team. Celtic has had some really good Japanese players, including one of their current forwards.
There guys in Maeda. They got a bunch of. They got Hatate, Maeda, Furuhashi. They have like a Japanese pipeline going to Celtic.
Yep. So always have a soft spot in my heart for them. Spain, I mean, beautiful passing game as always. I think they're a dark horse to win this whole thing. I never hear anybody saying that Spain could win this, but I think they absolutely could.
Do the Germans make it out?
Germans? No, I don't think they do.
Tommy.
I don't think they do. What do you guys think about Germany? Because I mean, Die Minecraft or whatever they call themselves are just
the Mannschaft. The
Oh,
Mannschaft.
yeah.
I don't know if we have enough time to go into German history and German antics at the moment for their federation.
Yikes. Let's not go into German history, please. We'll get demonetized on YouTube.
Yes, exactly. Yeah.
I think Germany is going to advance. I think, unfortunately, I think they'll beat Costa Rica 3 or 4-0, and Japan will have a hard-fought draw with Spain, or even probably take a loss, and it's going to be heartbreaking.
So you have U.S. is the only team to advance from CONCACAF.
Yeah. Costa Rica's done. Costa Rica will get demolished.
They have a win.
I predicted
they control their own destiny.
I predicted that Japan would crush Costa Rica also, and then Costa Rica won. So who knows?
That was a shocker. That's upset of the tournament.
I will say we lose 2 major nations tomorrow, and that is it's a big deal. I will say Belgium will not make it, and I will say Germany will get knocked out tomorrow. 2 very high favorites, and a lot of people's top 5, top 10 favorites going into this. Belgium, obviously ranked 2 in the world. We can debate that if that's actually accurate or not.
Neither in qualifying position starting the day, so they both need to get busy.
Yeah, so it's not a huge surprise that you take something like that, but given their records and who they are, I think it's a huge loss to the tournament going forward. But they did themselves in the early games, and I don't think they advance.
So I think my hottest takes right now, I would predict that Serbia and South Korea both advance.
Wow.
That's what I got. That's a few days from now. As far as the U.S. national team, I know you asked about that. To wrap up real quick, the move is bottomless mimosas. The move is Bloody Marys. Pick your poison. It's going to be a fantastic shit show, and I am so excited. Could not be more excited. I think the Netherlands are a shade of their past selves. This is not the same Netherlands team that we had 8 years ago. This is not the same Netherlands team that was an offensive, masterpiece to watch. Just, beautiful, beautiful.
It's not the total football Oranje of years of old. Yeah.
And as repping the orange here, I can tell you, there's the only orange that matter right now are Syracuse basketball, which need to get back on track. F the Netherlands, and we got this. We got this, boys. Saturday, what's the move? Are we going out to watch this? What are you guys doing?
Well, Geslin, I would love Geslin to be here on Saturday.
I would love to be there.
Are you going to that sports bar by your new place?
District in KC.
I will. Yeah, I will. I'll be at Goal.
Great sports
if
bar.
If anyone that watches or is listening from Portland, please check out Goal. It's really awesome soccer bar on Hawthorne. They do an awesome job. Nate and Tom are there every day. This tournament opening for the 4 o'clock. 2 o'clock games is not an option, of course, here, but they open at 4 for the 5 o'clock games, or had been. So please check them out. I will definitely be out there. They've been packed for all the U.S. national games, out the door, in the street, just the viewing party, which will be great. So Danny Brams and Luke, I'd love to be with you guys in Charlotte, of course, but I'll hold the fort down as best I can out here on the West Coast. It'll be nice and early, but we're looking forward to it out here as well. And I think I'm in your boat, Luke. I said this yesterday. I think Netherlands was the easiest of the opponents that we could get, and I think it'll be a real opportunity for us to advance. And I think unfortunately we'll potentially run into a buzzsaw after that. But let's get through one game first, and a huge opportunity in front of us and with the Netherlands.
I won't make you pick that game just yet, Geslin. But
yeah,
I I'll have a strong drive pushing me to get to Hooligans in the French Quarter for this match. I think that's the soccer soul of the city place I want to be. However, there's also my TCU Horned Frogs are playing for Big 12 football championship at the same time. Very big game in terms of getting into the playoff there. So I might have to bunker up and have my multi-screen going at home. I'm not 100% sure, but I also really love being out amongst the people for a big soccer match and a U.S. men's national team. Those only come around every 4 years or 8 years at this rate. So I may have to just stat track and score watch the TCU. If TCU can get a nice early lead on the first quarter, it'll be a lot easier for me to bounce out of here and get up to Hooligans. Let's just put it that way.
Excellent. Well, I love it. I'll try to make it down there. I've been watching at Dilworth with the American Outlaws, but I was out sick yesterday, so unable to make it. And we'll have to see how I'm feeling Saturday. But I want to get back out there if I'm healthy and party with the people.
Hit me up, man.
All right,
sure.
y'all.
And anybody in Charlotte, that's listening to this, watching this, hit us up. You know where to find us. Comment if you have to. And yeah,
Netherlands does not score against us. That's my prediction.
Jesslyn?
We'll talk about it later.
All right. Peace.